We wait with bated breath. We survived it? For today's video, we're going to be taking a look at a deck that is commonly referred to as Hexcore Freeze, but the reality is it is a Teemo and Ezreal list. The reason that it's most commonly called Hexcore Freeze is because you're using a bunch of frostbite effects as your primary way to level Ezreal. It's very similar to the old Easy Nux, Ezreal Nux, the old L Nux Ezreal list of the past. But instead of the Elnuck package, you're now running the Teemo package alongside Hexcore Foundry, hence the name Hexcore Freeze. So if you're not familiar, the deck does a bunch of stalling with targeted effects to get Ezreal leveled. You get some chip damage in, and then you're using cards like Puffcat Peddler, Chump Wump, and Teemo himself to put a bunch of mushrooms in the opponent's deck. Foundry makes them draw cards. They take even more damage. Foundry also refills your hand with targeted options. These burst speed options for Ezreal kind of recreate the old OTK one turn kill effect. So this is a list I've seen popping up in a lot of tournament lineups. So I wanted to cover it this week as we talk about tournament decks. So we're just going to go through the list real quick, and then I'll go through a couple of games so you can see it in action. 3 beams. This is your heavy hitter for removal late game when you need to take out something big, but it's also really flexible. It's one of the best ways to deal with an opposing like turn 1 Teemo or Zoe or whatever. So just good flexible option. 3 brittle steel, frostbite, burst speed, everything you want in the package. Teemo, you're running the mushrooms. I will say this version I'm running right now is 3 Teemo, 3 Ezreal. There are some versions, so as we talk about variants, that will only run 2 Teemo, and you don't try to play him turn 1. He's more like after you've put mushrooms in, he comes in and is like a finisher. So he's like a 1-drop that's not a 1-drop. But then in place of the 1 Teemo you take out, they run 1 Sejuani on the top end. The idea being that if you have done enough damage with the mushrooms and the chip damage throughout the game, you can drop 1 Sejuani late. Yes, she's got her own frostbite effect, but on top of that, her level 2 ability with the mushrooms and with the hex cores likely means that you are freezing the entire enemy board. You can create this like lockdown scenario. Now, I'm not running it, but I have seen people do it. So just be aware that that variant exists. And when you're playing against that, when you kind of have to pilot accordingly. So back to the beginning here, Teemo. So this is your kind of early 1-drop, sub 1-drop lineup. Iceveil Archer. This card is better than you think because not only does it target for Ezreal and it gives you that frostbite effect, and it also trades with fearsome units and blah blah blah, but the frostbite from Iceveil Archer goes through spell shield, and the number of times I've seen people caught off guard by that is really high. But this is a skill, and more importantly, it's an uncounterable skill because it's a skill at burst speed. All frostbite effects in the game occur at burst speed, with the exception of some weird targeted stuff like Ash's Arrow. But for the most part, your effects, right, like Brittle Steel, like Flash Freeze, like Harsh Winds, they're all burst speed effects, and this one is no different. So you play Archer, it happens, but again, it's a skill, not a spell, and it goes through spell shield. So this will work against really annoying targets. It has won me some games as a result. Now, it does not pop the spell shield because it's not a spell targeting it, but the fact that you can stall a shielded target is a pretty big deal. So this card's great. Iterative Improvement. This one is really flexible for a number of reasons. Like if there was one card that I could say I wish I could jam more of it in the list, it would actually be this. There's been times where I've experimented with like cutting the one Get Excited for another improvement, and here's why. One, you can use it on your really key units. So Peddler is like the big one. Chump Wump, if you just really need the mushrooms, can also get the job done. If you also just need to stall, hitting your own Archer is great. But if you use this on an opponent's follower, it's you targeting that follower. So it helps out your Ezreal count. It's also a burst speed spell that does it, so it helps in that same regard. And right now in the meta, there are some pretty juicy targets that your opponents are likely playing. So giving yourself Burblefish, you know, this is a deck that runs a lot of spells, but because of our region choices, we can't run Burblefish, but we wish we could. And if we can steal an opposing Burblefish, that's great. So this is just a really flexible card. I'm a big fan of it. It's just hard to jam in a bunch of them because you need all of your defensive options. Mystic Shot, pretty self-explanatory. Sometimes it's just to kill Twisted Fate. Sometimes it's to kill other units. And, you know, it can be a nice Nexus finisher, blah, 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 blah. It's Mystic Shot. You get it. Troll Chant. This card does double duty. It's another targeted effect for Ezreal that is also burst speed. But the +2 to your health is a pretty big deal for keeping Teemo alive at times and your Ezreal alive at times. So this is your combat trick to keep your very, you know, key units alive. Veteran Investigator. This is a follower that I haven't really talked about much. You know, I didn't mention it with the iterative, but this is one that is kind of a finisher of sorts. Like, it's a 2-drop. You can play it on curve if you're against a very aggressive list and you just need a body, whatever. But for the most part, this is a card that I find myself kind of saving, unless I absolutely need it, until after a bunch of puff caps are in, because it's not a counterable effect. When he's summoned, all players draw a card, and so you can just start forcing players to take a bunch of mushroom damage. And there's not much they can do about it as long as you have priority to play. So, Investigator. Ezreal, kind of the point of the deck. Flash Freeze. Same concept as Brittle Steel, but it's just the big brother. One, Get Excited. This is for units with the 3 health that can be pesky. Yes, Beam is usually intended for those, but, you know, Aphelios is so popular in the meta right now, having something like Get Excited can be a pretty big deal. And again, even in matchups where it might be theoretically dead, you can always throw a Nexus. So, 1, Get Excited. 3, Foundries. Refills your hand, makes them take mushroom damage because you are flash freezing to stall, right? Because you're using frostbite effects. It kind of doesn't matter if you give them a bunch of threats as long as you can keep up with them on a turn by turn basis. So you're going to take damage with this deck. Like, this isn't something that, you know, you're going to feel like you're stable playing all the time. You have to learn how to use your health as a resource, but for the most part, the drawback is really a positive. You want your opponent drawing cards with this list. Puff Cap, really important. Like, this, more so than Teemo, more so than Chumpwump, this is the primary source of you putting the Puff Caps in their deck. And so if you can get multiples out and then jam a bunch of spells, that's usually your best path to victory, with Ezreal as the finisher. But like, this actually is this is the dude that does the dirty work for you. Chumpwump, great blocker, gives you the mushroom clouds, which are great because they're mushrooms. They're also burst spells. I mean, you know the drill. And then 2 harsh winds on the top end, because who doesn't like more flash freeze effects? So that's the list. You know, if you've played Ezreal lists in the past, it's going to feel very, you know, at home, but just with this kind of fun mushroom package. But it's been, you know, increasing in popularity in tournament lineups. So I wanted to share it so that folks were aware, you know, that it's an option or that you might run into it, so you know what their game plan is. And with that being said, I'm going to go play a couple of games so you can see it in action, and we're going to do that now. Interesting. I wonder if this is a mirror of sorts, though traditionally we see Ezreal. Or maybe this is just Teemo Sejuani with a little bit of Victor spice. Yeah, I think we'll keep the 2 targeted things here. Well, I guess we're going to keep all 4. All right. Guess that's one way to do it. And probably pass, unless they play something here. Yeah, so we can just go ahead and do this. Hope they don't have a thermal in response, and maybe sneak in the damage. Leaping into action. Because chip damage is good for us here. Oh, they have the Death Ray. Here I was worried about the thermal. And then just lock it up with the death ray. Okay. This is a bit of an awkward hand. We're gonna take two basically either way, but I guess getting rid of this before they can play this ignition, start pumping stuff up makes sense. I imagine this is just more like a Teemo Sejuani build with Victor Spice. And not like our Hexcore freeze strategy. So we take this damage. Not like super thrilled about it, but it is what it is. Now we also know almost empirically that they've got that death ray, but we don't have great ways to keep our Teemo alive long term. So like we can play Teemo here and then we can protect him at least temporarily with the troll chant, though, if they've got another mystic shot or anything similar to back it up. There's not much we can do, but I think playing Teemo and just trying to force them to use their tools makes the most sense here. Reality is we're just trying to set ourselves up for a leveled up Ezreal and then later a Hexcore. All right, so they're gonna go with the ignition, which is, you know, again, chip damage that we're not super thrilled about, but kind of nice because if we do this and they try to catch us with the death ray that we assume they have, that means they can't follow it up with a mystic shot on top of it. So there's the death ray, and so we're gonna say like so, because this is only 2 at the moment. And we can get a couple of mushrooms going. Might end up having to use another beam on this bot here. Yeah, let's go with the steel block. Even though we're probably just going to nuke this with a beam, by doing it this way, if we decide not to, we get to a point where mystic shot is potentially an option, and so we're going to pass here just to see if they play something else, trying to bait it out. This Sejuani is going to be a real problem because of these. Like, they've just been dinging us pretty much every turn, so we might even be facing that this next turn. We'll use one beam there and save this last one for the inevitable Sejuani. Now here we likely have the death ray, so we're gonna play the puff cap here. Just because now they have to make that decision. They're gonna hit us with the ignition because again they're trying to set up the Sejuani play, and then we're gonna go in for the attack and see what kind of shenanigans they got for us. We're looking for maybe a block by them into a flash freeze, but again I fully expect the Ray to go here. Unless they somehow haven't drawn it yet. But they also could nuke our peddler. Just overall, we're not in a great spot knowing Sejuani's coming down. Yeah, that's the appropriate nuke. They try to keep that bot alive, and now they have another bot, so bad, just bad overall for us. Could just be paying into a leveled Sejuani. We're gonna play a peddler so that we've got a potential blocker that we can flash freeze, even though Sejuani is a real threat. Honestly, the lack of a foundry has been problematic as well. Ooh, this turn is gonna hurt. Because this is a deck that requires lots of card draw. And we're only 11 cards deep. All right, we're gonna do it this way. I would like to get rid of one of the bots, but they're playing it smart and safe. And at this point, I just don't think that's gonna happen. But we really do need a foundry. That wins is not helpful. Well, Teemo has leveled, but I don't think it's going to be a net positive if they just let that through that way. And these two bots are just going to race me. They're just going to sit here and deal damage over and over. Yeah, not many puff caps in their deck yet. Oh, that is awful for us to see at the moment. We're actually gonna end up with more puff caps in our own deck than they have in theirs if this pace continues. There's a strong case to be made about beaming one of these and then using the harsh winds defensively. Even though, again, we likely just run into Sejuani next turn, but I guess we'll just beam the big one. Slow some of this nonsense down. I don't know. This is a really weird situation to be in overall.
I am the future. I'm a peddler, not a meddler.
Trying to think if there's anything that could serve as a potential buff here. I don't think so. I'm more worried about like this augment. I'm also not a big fan of taking this 3 damage, but I think we need all the help that we can get. And at this point, again, we might kill ourselves with a foundry. Oh, they've played the foundry. Uh-oh, it just got spicy. Because if we can connect with Teemo on our next turn, we'll have the puff cap advantage, but they've got the health advantage, and that's not good. That's not good. So they're gonna throw in more puff caps, and they're taking a shot. It's a really good shot as well at drawing it. I think we are about to get out puff capped, gang. Unless we get a miracle here. I don't know. I don't know if this Ezreal can do enough work for us, but we can give her a go. I mean, we have 10 mana. I mean, we knew this was coming. And so now we have to ask ourselves, do we Go with the harsh winds play, or I mean, I think we do this wump either way. I'm just saying that harsh winds is worth 2 damage, and these are technically worth 2 damage, but with higher upside. But if we do these, we also can use this potentially as well. Yep, I think it's this. This is going to be close, but I'm pretty sure they're favored. Oh, they had a troll chant. There's no hope. There's no hope. There's 0% chance that we survive 2 card draws. We wait with bated breath. We wait with bated breath. We survived it? I mean, they survived it too, though.
Runaway bike. No sweat.
All right, we'll do this. Throw in some more mushrooms, get that Ezreal damage. Then we have another wump. I mean, we definitely die to shrooms here, but we have to try to make it so that they die to shrooms too, I think, right? I had 2 of them, huh? All right. We're at 36 puff caps. We're at 21. But we can jam in more. I think we die because we're gonna die from the first card drawn, like almost assuredly, and unless they've got like 6 on theirs, I think we still just lose this here. This is quite the showdown. So, how does this resolve? What? What? What is going on? I don't understand. Are we just dead to direct damage? Like, do they have a mystic shot? Oh, they're gonna go that route, huh? Okay.
My pretty.
Do we play the investigator? They have 54 to our 24, but we're at 1 health. I don't think you play the investigator. I think you're supposed to just let this go. Because the expected value here is 2 puff caps per card drawn for them, and the expected value for me is 1. So what you would expect mathematically is if I play this, they take 2 and I take 1 and we lose. So I think we just pass and then we probably still lose here. But I don't know how this works out. High game. Okay. Let's play another. I don't know how to process that. Well, we're running into a mirror. So not the Sejuani one that we played against earlier, but straight kind of standard mirror. I like the rest of this. I don't want the 2-drop there though. This is what we're looking for. So we do this and hope they don't have the thermal. They have the thermal. I mean, you have to take that opener, I think. And so we pass, they probably pass. Then we'll go into Puff Cap.
Or you miss me.
Well, I was about to say Puff Cap with Mystic Shot. I was not expecting with them to just lead off with an Ezreal, but little bit of a shame because I wanted to keep that spell mana.
Have a mushroom.
So we're gonna start with this to see if it draws fire.
Oh, if mushrooms could talk.
We'd really like to get this Teemo rolling, but with 3 left, we've got a number of ways to hit him hard, so I think I would rather wait.
I'm a peddler, not a meddler. I've always been a fun guy.
So we'll do this. See what they've got. So, staring contest. All right. We'll go ahead and make an improvement on a Puff Cap. For the next round, they're gonna go with the Wump.
There was a little fella asking for me.
I mean, we want to develop our Wump eventually here as well.
Status high. An expert is at work.
But I don't think now is the proper time. I don't know, with the troll chant here, we can survive for a swing.
Oh, if mushrooms could talk. For once, am I right?
So they could potentially have like Mystic Shot here, but they do not. So we get to jam in even more mushrooms. And this is going to be quite the showdown here.
Nothing escapes.
Oh, they are running Sentry. How interesting. How interesting. I'm gonna slow play this and then wait and see if they're passing or not. I want to pop the one just so that our Teemo levels. But I want to keep at least 5 mana back for our defensive options in case they decide to attack here. So this is really just about taking an action and passing priority. And I think they're gonna do the same. Okay, we'll do one more ourselves. We just have to make sure we have enough for Troll Chant to still be there. Okay. Lots of mushrooms going back and forth here, but we immediately go in with this. I expect this to have something. It's got to be frozen, yeah. Yep, I think we just pass here. Our Ezreal only has the 2 targets, but we've got a lot of ways to manage that. And let's also griddle this. So as I said, we got lots of ways to do the old Ezreal targeting thing. This also makes them draw a card, which works a little bit in our favor. Still have our troll chant back to maybe protect Teemo if needed. All right, so they take more damage from the draw. We're gonna go ahead and develop this Ice Veil, just because that means our Ezreal will be ready to go next turn.
Time for a true display of skill.
Now, they also just need one target, so they could do that, but we start with priority next turn, so we can answer and then kind of go off ourselves. And so mushroom damage around. And we'll go ahead and start with our own Ezreal here. And at 14 health, we should be safe because they would need a lot of burst options. Whereas the moment we get priority, we can win as long as Ezreal's still on the board, because we've got 3 burst targeting options and the mana to do it. So a bit of an interesting mirror. I mean, lots of mirrors going on here. So we'll do this and this and this, and we'll make sure to say GG. And that's it. So one draw, both kind of mirrors, but hopefully you get to see what the deck is trying to do. And again, if you're not used to seeing the list, maybe it'll give you some ideas. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you tomorrow.